The stars looked peaceful through the big window of the passenger deck. Emma Carter pressed her small hands against the cool glass and watched the tiny lights sparkle in the darkness. She was 8 years old and had never seen so many stars before. Her mother, Dr. Lisa Carter, sat beside her with a warm smile on her face. "Look at that one, Mommy," Emma said, pointing to a bright blue star. "It's so pretty." "That's where we came from, sweetheart," Lisa said softly. "That's our sun." "And that small dot next to it is Earth, our old home?" Emma nodded and kept looking. The transport ship New Hope was carrying them and 845 other people to a new world called Kepler 442b. It was going to be their new home. Lisa was a scientist who studied alien plants and animals. She was excited to see what kind of life might be on their new planet. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the passenger area, checking on everyone. He was a big man with kind eyes and a gray beard. He had been flying ships between the stars for 20 years. Jake stopped to talk with some of the other passengers. "How much longer until we get there, Captain?" asked Pete Jackson. Pete was a mining engineer who planned to help build the new colony. He was traveling with his wife Nancy and their twin boys. "About 6 more hours," Jake said with a smile. "We should arrive right on schedule." Near the back of the passenger deck, Amy Brooks was reading a book about farming. She was an agricultural specialist who would help grow food on the new world. Amy had left her family on Earth to help build a better future for everyone. The ship was not very big, but it was comfortable. There were sleeping areas, a dining room, and even a small library. Most of the passengers were families with children, scientists, and people who wanted to start new lives. They had all paid their savings to make this trip. In the cargo hold, there were supplies for the new colony, seeds for growing food, tools for building homes, and machines for making clean water. Everything they needed to survive on a new world was packed carefully in the ship's belly. Dr. Lisa Carter looked at her daughter and felt happy. Emma's father had died in an accident 3 years ago. This trip was their chance to start over and make new memories together. Lisa had been chosen to lead the biology team on the new world. It was an important job, and she was proud to do it. "Mommy, are there aliens on our new planet?" Emma asked. "Maybe," Lisa said, "but don't worry. If there are, they're probably very small, like tiny bugs or fish, nothing scary." Emma giggled and went back to looking at the stars. Captain Morrison was on the bridge with his crew. The bridge was the control room where they flew the ship. There were 12 crew members total. They were all good people who had worked together for many years. "All systems look good, Captain," said First Officer Danny Webb. He was checking the ship's computers and engines. "Good," Jake said. "Send a message to Kepler Station. Tell them we're almost there." But before Danny could send the message, the ship's warning alarm started to sound. Red lights flashed on and off. The computer screen showed something that made Jake's heart race. "Captain, we have incoming missiles," said Navigation Officer Kelly Price. Her voice was scared but steady. "3 ships, coming fast from the asteroid field." Jake grabbed the ship's communication system. "All passengers, this is the captain. We have an emergency. Please get to the escape pods right away. This is not a drill." The attacking ships belonged to an alien race called the Vorthak. They were large, gray creatures with 4 arms and no hair. The Vorthak believed that humans were taking over too much space in the galaxy. They thought all human ships were military vessels, even peaceful. Ones like the New Hope. Commander Zexthal led the attack. He was a proud warrior who had won many battles. His intelligence officers had told him that the New Hope was a military ship carrying weapons and soldiers. They were wrong, but Zexthal did not know that. "Fire the first torpedo," Zexthal ordered. His ship was much bigger and stronger than the New Hope. The first plasma torpedo hit the front of the New Hope. The explosion was so powerful that it destroyed the entire front cargo hold in seconds. The ship shook like it was in an earthquake. Passengers screamed and fell down. Lisa grabbed Emma and ran toward the escape pods. All around them, people were panicking and trying to get to safety. The lights flickered on and off. The ship's air was being sucked out through the hole in the hull. "Everyone stay calm," shouted Pete Jackson, trying to help other passengers. But it was hard to stay calm when death was all around them. The second torpedo hit the passenger decks. The explosion tore through the walls and floors. Amy Brooks was thrown against the wall and did not get up. Many other passengers were killed instantly. Captain Morrison tried to send a distress signal, but the ship's communication systems were damaged. He managed to send a short message: "New Hope under attack, civilian ship, we need help." The third torpedo hit the bridge. Jake Morrison and his crew were killed in the explosion. The ship was now flying blind through space with no one to control it. Lisa and Emma reached the escape pod area. There were only a few pods left, and many were already damaged. Lisa put Emma into a small emergency pod that was meant for one person. "Mommy, come with me," Emma cried. "I can't fit, baby," Lisa said, tears in her eyes. "But you'll be safe. The pod will take you to safety." Lisa pressed a small data recorder into Emma's hands. "Keep this safe. It has pictures of Daddy and me, and it has the recording of what happened to our ship." "I don't want to leave you," Emma sobbed. "I love you so much," Lisa said, kissing her daughter's forehead. "Be brave, my little star." Lisa pressed the launch button. Emma's pod shot out of the ship and into space. She watched through the pod's small window as her mother disappeared in another explosion. The Vortex ships kept firing until the New Hope was nothing but floating pieces of metal and plastic. Then they turned and flew away, thinking they had destroyed a human military vessel. Of the 859 people on the New Hope, only 17 survived in scattered escape pods. They floated in the cold darkness of space, waiting for rescue that might never come. Emma's pod drifted toward a field of asteroids. The little girl held her mother's data recorder close to her chest and cried. She was alone among the stars, with only the memory of her parents to keep her company. The attack on the New Hope would change everything. When Earth found out what had happened, they would not forget. They would not forgive. And they would show the galaxy that humans could be very dangerous when their children were hurt. But for now, Emma Carter floated in the darkness, the last witness to a terrible crime. The data recorder in her small hands contained the evidence that would bring justice for her parents and all the other innocent people who died that day. The stars that had looked so peaceful just hours before now seemed cold and hostile. The galaxy had shown its true face to humanity, and humanity would remember. The Earth Defense Force patrol ship Ranger moved slowly through the cold darkness of space. Lieutenant Commander Rick Hayes stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the main window. His ship had been looking for the New Hope for 3 days now. The civilian transport was supposed to arrive at Kepler Station, but it never showed up. "Sir, we're getting close to the New Hope's last known position," said Chief Petty Officer Maria Santos. She was working at the sensor station, her fingers dancing across the control panel. Maria had been in the Space Navy for 15 years. She had seen many things, but she always hoped to find survivors. "Keep scanning," Rick said. "If there's anyone out there, we need to find them." The Ranger was not a big ship, but it was fast and had good sensors. It was designed to patrol the space lanes and help ships in trouble. Rick and his crew of 25 had saved many people over the years. They hoped today would be another rescue mission. "Sir, I'm picking up debris," Maria said. Her voice was getting more serious. "Lots of it. And I'm detecting 17 life." Signs scattered across a wide area. Rick felt his heart sink. Debris meant the New Hope had been destroyed, but 17 life signs meant there were survivors. How far apart are they? About 12,000 kilometers. They're in escape pods, drifting in different directions. "All right, people," Rick said to his crew. "We have survivors to collect. Let's get to work." The Ranger began moving toward the nearest life sign. Through the window, Rick could see pieces of metal and plastic floating in space. Some pieces were big, like parts of the ship's hull. Others were small, like personal belongings that had been sucked out when the ship broke apart. The first survivor they found was a middle-aged man named Carl Brown. He was a teacher who had been going to the new colony to start a school. Carl was unconscious but alive. The Ranger's medical team took him to the sick bay. "One down, 16 to go," Rick said. It took 6 hours to collect all the survivors. Some were hurt badly. Others were just scared and cold. The last survivor they found was the smallest escape pod they had ever seen. It was designed for just one person in an emergency. "Life signs are weak but steady," said Dr. Ben Clark, the ship's doctor. "It's a child." They brought the pod into the Ranger's cargo bay. When they opened it, they found 8-year-old Emma Carter. She was holding a small data recorder tightly in her hands. Her eyes were red from crying, and she looked very scared. "It's okay, sweetheart," said Nurse Janet Mills. "You're safe now." Emma looked around at all the adults in uniforms. "Where's my mommy?" she asked in a small voice. Janet looked at Dr. Clark. They both knew the answer, but it was hard to tell a child that her mother was gone. "We're going to take very good care of you," Janet said softly. Emma held up the data recorder. "Mommy told me to keep this safe. She said it has pictures of her and Daddy." Rick took the recorder gently. "We'll make sure nothing happens to it. Can you tell us what happened to your ship?" Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Bad ships came and shot at us. They made big explosions. Mommy put me in the pod and told me to be brave." Rick felt angry. Someone had attacked a civilian ship full of families. That was against all the rules of space travel. Even in war, civilian ships were supposed to be safe. Back in the sick bay, the other survivors were telling similar stories. Pete Jackson had lost his wife Nancy and their twin boys. He sat on a medical bed, staring at nothing. Amy Brooks was badly hurt but alive. She kept asking about her research notes, not knowing that her life's work was floating in space as frozen debris. "They came out of nowhere," said mining engineer Don Rogers. "3 big ships. They didn't even try to talk to us first. Just started shooting." Dr. Clark treated the survivors' injuries while Rick examined the data recorder. The device was designed to record everything that happened on a ship. It was like a black box on old airplanes. "Maria, can you help me with this?" Rick asked. Maria was good with computers. She connected the recorder to the ship's systems and began downloading the data. What they found made everyone on the bridge very quiet. The recording showed the last minutes of the New Hope. They could see the passenger deck where families were looking at stars. They could hear Captain Morrison's voice as he tried to get everyone to safety. They could see the explosions that tore the ship apart, but most importantly, they could see the attacking ships. The computer identified them as Vorthek vessels. The Vorthek were a warrior race that lived on the other side of human space. They had never attacked humans before, but they had been making threatening statements about human expansion. "Sir, we need to get this information to Earth Defense Command right away," Maria said. Rick nodded. "Send everything, full priority transmission." The message traveled through space faster than light, using quantum communication systems. Within hours, it reached Earth Defense Command headquarters on Luna, the moon that orbited Earth. Admiral John Davis was in his office when the message arrived. He was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. John had been in the Space Navy for 30 years. He had fought in 3 wars and helped negotiate dozens of peace treaties. The Admiral read the report twice. Then he watched the recording from the New Hope. When it was over, he sat back in his chair and was quiet for a long time. "Get me the United Earth Council," he said to his aide. "Emergency session." The United Earth Council met in a big building in New Geneva, Switzerland. Representatives from all the human colonies came together when there were important decisions to make. Today, they were hearing about the worst attack on civilians in human history. President Susan Miller called the meeting to order. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but today she looked very serious. "Admiral Davis, please tell us what happened." John stood up and activated the holographic display. The council chamber became dark, and they could see the stars and the New Hope floating peacefully in space. 3 days ago, the civilian transport New Hope was attacked without warning by Vorthek forces, John said. Of the 859 people on board, only 17 survived. The rest were killed in an unprovoked attack on a clearly marked civilian vessel. The council members watched the recording in silence. They saw the families on the passenger deck. They saw the children playing and the adults talking about their new life. Then they saw the explosions and the screaming. When the recording ended, the council chamber was very quiet. Some of the representatives were crying, others looked angry. "This is an act of war," said Representative Carlos Mendez from the Mars colonies. "They attacked our civilians, our children. We need to respond," said Representative Lisa Wong from the asteroid mining stations. "If we don't, they'll think they can attack any human ship they want." President Miller stood up. "The question is not whether we respond. The question is how. We are not like the Vorthek. We don't attack civilians, we don't start wars, but we also don't let our people be murdered." Director Kevin Walsh of the Strategic Intelligence Division had been studying the Vorthek for years. He knew how they thought and what they respected. "Madam President, the Vorthek only understand strength," Kevin said. "They see mercy as weakness. If we want to prevent more attacks, we need to show them that hurting humans has consequences. What do you recommend?" The president asked. Kevin smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We show them what human precision looks like. We show them that we can reach out and touch anyone, anywhere, anytime we want. And we do it in a way that leaves no doubt about our capabilities." The council voted that day to authorize a military response. But it would not be like the Vorthek attack. It would be planned, precise, and devastating in its accuracy. As the meeting ended, President Miller thought about little Emma Carter, floating alone in space with her mother's data recorder. The child had lost everything, but her courage had given humanity the evidence it needed. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were not helpless prey. They were patient hunters who never forgot and never missed when they decided to strike back. The Titan research facility was hidden on Saturn's largest moon, far from Earth and far from prying eyes. Dr. Helen Ross walked through the long white hallways of the secret base, her footsteps echoing in the quiet corridors. She was the head scientist of Earth's most advanced weapons project, something called the Nemesis Protocol. Helen was a small woman with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. She had spent her whole life studying how to make weapons that could hit targets with perfect accuracy. Her team of 50 scientists had been working on the Nemesis project for 5 years. Today, their work would finally be put to the test. "Dr. Ross, the quantum targeting system is ready for final testing," said Dr. Carl Jung. He was a physicist who understood how to track objects across the vastness of space. Carl was excited but also nervous. Their technology had never been used in real combat before. Helen nodded and followed Carl to the main laboratory. The room was filled with computers, screens, and machines that hummed quietly. In the center of the room was a device that looked like a large metal sphere covered in lights and wires. "This is it," Carl said, pointing to the sphere. "The quantum targeting system can track a single ship from over 1,000 light-years away. It can follow that ship no matter where it goes or how fast it moves. Once we lock onto a target, we never lose it." Helen smiled. "And the accuracy?" "Perfect," Carl said. "We can hit a target the size of a dinner plate from the other side of the galaxy. The system calculates exactly where the target will be and exactly when our weapons will arrive. It's like having a crystal ball that shows the future." On the other side of the facility, Colonel Steve Parker was studying intelligence reports about the Vorthek military. Steve was Earth's best military strategist, a man who could look at an enemy and find their weaknesses. He had been planning Earth's response to the New Hope attack for 2 weeks. "The Vorthek have 13 primary command centers," Steve said to his staff. "Each one controls a different part of their military. If we can take out all 13 at the same time, their entire command structure will collapse." Major Lisa Torres, Steve's second-in-command, looked at the holographic display showing Vorthak space. "That's a lot of targets spread across a huge area. How do we hit them all at once?" "With the quantum targeting system," Steve said. "We can coordinate our strikes so that every target gets hit at exactly the same moment. The Vorthak will never know what hit them." Steve pointed to different locations on the display. Command Center Alpha on Vorthak Prime is their main military headquarters. Command Center Beta on Kethver is their naval academy. Command Center Gamma on Fakemur is their weapons research facility. If we take out all of them simultaneously, their military will be paralyzed. The plan was brilliant but dangerous. Earth would be sending 12 ships deep into enemy territory. If something went wrong, those ships and their crews would be lost. Forever. Captain Nicole Green was chosen to lead the strike force. She was a veteran of many space battles, a woman who had never lost a ship under her command. Nicole was tall and strong, with short black hair and eyes that missed nothing. "The ship we're giving you is special," Admiral Davis told her during the briefing. "It's called the Retribution, and it's equipped with every advanced weapon and defense system we have." Nicole looked at the plans for her new ship. It was sleek and dark, designed to be invisible to enemy sensors. The Retribution was not the biggest ship in the Earth fleet, but it was the deadliest. "What about the crew?" Nicole asked. "You get to pick them yourself," the Admiral said. "Choose the best people you can find. This mission is too important to trust to anyone but the very best." Nicole chose her crew carefully. She picked Commander Alex Stone as her first officer. Alex was calm under pressure and could think quickly when things went wrong. She chose Lieutenant Sarah Kim as her weapons officer. Sarah could hit any target with deadly accuracy. She chose Lieutenant Tony Garcia as her pilot. Tony could fly a ship through an asteroid field blindfolded. For 2 weeks, the strike force trained constantly. They practiced flying in formation while invisible. They practiced hitting targets with perfect timing. They practiced emergency procedures for every possible problem. The other 11 ships in the strike force were just as advanced as the Retribution. Each one was commanded by Earth's best captains and crewed by the most skilled officers. Together, they would deliver Earth's message to the Vorthik intelligence officer Lavra. Stone worked day and night to gather information about the Vorthik targets. She used spy satellites, intercepted communications, and data from merchant ships that had visited Vorthik space. Lavra was determined to know everything about the enemy before the strike began. "I found him," Lavra said one day, rushing into Colonel Parker's office. "Commander Zexville, the Vorthak who ordered the attack on the New Hope. He's currently stationed at the military academy on Vorthik Prime." Steve looked at the intelligence report. "He's training new officers?" "Yes, sir. He's been promoted and put in charge of teaching young Vorthak warriors how to fight. The academy has about 5,000 students and teachers." Steve was quiet for a moment. "Then that's where we'll send our most precise strike. We take out Zexthal and his command staff, but we leave the students alive. We show the Vorthik that we can be surgical in our revenge." The final preparations were made in secret. The strike force ships were loaded with the most advanced weapons Earth had ever built. The quantum targeting system was calibrated and tested one last time. The crews said goodbye to their families, knowing they might not return. Dr. Helen Ross watched the final preparations from her laboratory on Titan. Her life's work was about to be tested in the most important battle humanity had ever fought. "Are you nervous?" Carl asked her. "Terrified," Helen admitted, "but also excited. If this works, we'll have shown the galaxy that humans are not to be messed with." President Miller gave the final authorization for the mission. She spoke to the strike force crews through a secure video link. "You carry with you the hopes and prayers of every human in the galaxy," she said. "The Vorthik attacked our civilians. They killed our children. They thought we were weak. Show them how wrong they were." The strike force launched from a secret base in the Kuiper Belt beyond the orbit of Pluto. 12 ships disappeared into hyperspace, heading for Vorthik territory. They would arrive in 36 hours on Earth. People waited and prayed. They thought about the families who had died on the New Hope. They thought about little Emma Carter, who was now living with her aunt and still had nightmares about the attack. In the hospitals where the New Hope survivors were recovering, Pete Jackson sat by his window and looked at the stars. He had lost his wife and children in the attack. All he wanted was justice. "Make them pay," he whispered to the darkness. The Vorthik had no idea what was coming. Their intelligence services had detected nothing. Their military leaders were going about their normal duties. Commander Zexthel was teaching a class on ship-to-ship combat, telling his students about his great victory against the human transport. In less than 2 days, the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest weapon was not anger or hatred. It was precision. Cold, calculating, perfect precision that could reach across the stars and touch anyone who dared to hurt Earth's children. The Nemesis Protocol was about to be unleashed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Earth Strike Force emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Vorthic territory like ghosts appearing in the night. Captain Nicole Green stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching as her 12 ships took their positions. The stealth systems were working perfectly. To the Vorthic sensors, the space around their worlds looked empty and peaceful. "All ships report ready, Captain," said Commander Alex Stone. His voice was calm, but Nicole could see the tension in his eyes. This was the moment they had all been training for. "Quantum targeting system is online," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from her weapons station. "We have positive locks on all 13 targets." Nicole looked at the holographic display that showed the entire Vorthic military structure. 13 red dots marked their command centers across 7 different worlds. In exactly 17 minutes, all of those dots would disappear forever. "This is retribution to all strike teams," Nicole said into her communication system. "We are. Go for Operation Nemesis. Execute on my mark." Across Vorthac space, the enemy was going about their normal day. On the fortress world of Fakemur, General Kadaver was inspecting his weapons research facility. He was proud of the new plasma torpedoes his scientists had developed. Those same torpedoes had been used to destroy the New Hope. "The humans are weak," he told his aide. "They talk about peace and cooperation, but they have no stomach for real war. Our attack on their transport ship will teach them to stay away from our territory." General Kadaver had no idea that high above his planet, invisible to all his sensors, the Earthship Vengeance was preparing to fire. Captain Tom Bradley had been waiting for this moment for weeks. His ship carried the most advanced kinetic weapons ever built by human hands. "Target locked," said his weapons officer, waiting for the signal. On the Naval Academy world of Kethver, Admiral Vexmal was reviewing the training schedules for new Vorthac officers. His academy was the pride of the Vorthic military, a place where the best and brightest learned to command starships. "We will produce 10,000 new officers this year," he told his staff. "Each one will be trained to destroy human ships wherever they find them." Above his world, the Earthship Justice waited in the darkness. Captain Rachel Davis had studied the Academy's layout for months. Her strike would be so precise that it would eliminate the command structure while leaving the student dormitories untouched. Across 13 worlds, the same scene was playing out. Earthships hung in space like invisible angels of death, their weapons aimed at the heart of the Vorthic military machine. The quantum targeting system tracked every movement, calculated every variable, and prepared for perfect synchronization on Vorthac Prime. The military academy was holding its afternoon training session. Commander Zexthel stood before a class of young Vorthac warriors, teaching them about ship-to-ship combat. He was describing his attack on the New Hope, making it sound like a great victory against a dangerous enemy. "The humans thought they could sneak a military vessel through our space," Zexthel said to his students. "But we were ready for them. We destroyed their ship before they could attack our colonies." The students listened eagerly. They admired Zexthel and wanted to be like him. None of them knew that the New Hope had been carrying families and children, not soldiers and weapons. "Remember," Zexthel continued, "humans are cowards. They will run from a real fight. They have no understanding of honor or courage." High above the academy, the Earthship Retribution held its position. Captain Nicole Green watched the real-time feed from their surveillance drones. She could see Zexthel in his classroom, still bragging about murdering civilians. "Captain, we're receiving the final countdown signal," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim. "All ships are in position and ready to fire." Nicole nodded. "On my mark, 5 4 2 Mark. At exactly 1437 Vorthak Standard Time, the Earth. Strike force fired as one. Across 7 worlds and 13 targets, the most precise military attack in galactic history began. The fortress world of Fakemar never saw it coming. The kinetic projectiles fired by the Vengeance struck the weapons research facility with surgical accuracy. The buildings collapsed inward, crushing the command center and the plasma torpedo production lines. General Kadover and his staff were killed instantly, but the weapons were so precise that the civilian city next to the base was completely untouched. Not a single building was damaged. Children playing in the streets felt the ground shake, but they were never in danger. On Kethver, the Naval Academy's command tower simply vanished. One moment, Admiral Vexmal was reviewing training schedules. The next moment, he and his entire staff were gone. The Earth weapons had punched through 30 floors of reinforced concrete and steel as if they were made of paper. The student dormitories, located just 200 meters away, were completely undamaged. Young Vorthak cadets rushed to their windows to see what had happened, but they were alive and unharmed. The pattern repeated across all 13 targets. Command centers were destroyed with perfect precision while everything else remained untouched. The Earth weapons hit exactly what they were aimed at, nothing more and nothing less. On Vorthak Prime, the military academy's main building suddenly erupted in flames. The kinetic projectiles had struck the command center where Zexthal was teaching his class. The commander who had ordered the attack on the New Hope was dead, along with his senior staff, but the classrooms on the other side of the building were unharmed. The students who had been listening to Zexthal's lies were shaken but alive. They stared in shock at the destruction, unable to understand how such precise devastation was possible. "Impossible," whispered one young cadet. "How did they hit just the command center? How did they know exactly where to strike?" The answer was floating invisibly above them. The Retribution's quantum targeting system had tracked every person in the building, calculated their exact positions, and fired with perfect timing. The Earth weapons had eliminated their targets while sparing everyone else. Captain Nicole Green watched the results on her tactical display. "All targets neutralized," she reported. "Zero collateral damage to civilian areas. Mission accomplished." The entire operation had lasted exactly 43 minutes. In that time, the Vorthak military had lost its entire command structure, its research facilities, and its communication networks. But their civilians were completely unharmed. The Vorthak defenders tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't hit what they couldn't see. The Earthships remained invisible, their stealth systems working perfectly. The few shots that came close were deflected by advanced shields. "Sir, we're receiving surrender signals from multiple Vorthak facilities," reported Commander Stone. "They're asking us to stop the attack." "Tell them the attack is over," Nicole said. "But if they ever threaten human civilians again, we'll be back." The Earth Strike Force began to withdraw, their mission complete. As they prepared to jump to hyperspace, Nicole looked back at the Vorthak worlds. Smoke was rising from 13 different locations, but the cities around those locations were untouched. "That's for the New Hope," she said quietly. "That's for all the families who died." The Vorthak military was in chaos. Their leaders were dead, their communications were down, and their weapons factories were burning. But more importantly, they had seen something that terrified them. The humans had struck with a precision that seemed impossible. Every shot had hit its target. Every target had been chosen perfectly. The humans had shown that they could reach across the galaxy and touch anyone they wanted, anytime they wanted. And they had done it while sparing innocent lives. As news of the attack spread through Vorthak space, a new understanding began to dawn. The humans were not weak. They were not cowards. They were something far more dangerous than any warrior race. They were precise, calculating, and deadly accurate. The galaxy was about to learn a new lesson about humanity. When humans struck back, they did it with godlike precision. The Vorthak hegemony had never known silence like this. For the first time in their history, their military communication networks were completely dead. The proud warrior race that had conquered dozens of worlds now sat in stunned confusion. trying to understand what had happened to them on Vorthak Prime. Civilian Administrator Krexen walked through the ruins of the military academy. She was not a warrior like most of her people. She was a bureaucrat who managed supplies and logistics. Now, with all the military leaders dead, she was the highest-ranking official left alive. "How many of our commanders survived?" she asked. Her aide, a young Vorthik named Texil. "None from the primary command structure," Texil said quietly. "All 13 command centers were hit simultaneously. The humans killed our entire military leadership in less than an hour." Krexen looked at the smoking ruins where Commander Zexthal had been teaching just hours before. The precision of the attack was terrifying. The humans had known exactly where every important target was located. They had struck with perfect timing and deadly accuracy. "What about our weapons, our ships?" "Most of our fleet is intact," Texil said. "But without central command, they don't know what to do. The ship captains are waiting for orders that will never come." Krexen was quiet for a long time. She had studied human culture and knew they were different from the Vorthak. Humans valued life, even the lives of their enemies. The fact that civilians had been spared in the attack proved this. "Send a message to the humans," she said finally. "Tell them we want to talk." Back on Earth, Admiral John Davis was reading reports from the strike force. Every ship had returned safely. Every target had been destroyed exactly as planned. The mission had been a complete success. 0 human casualties, he reported to President Miller. "All objectives achieved. The Vorthak military command structure has been completely eliminated." President Miller sat in her office. Looking out at the blue skies of Earth, she felt relieved that the mission was over, but also sad about all the death and destruction. War was never something to celebrate, even when it was necessary. "What about civilian casualties on their side?" she asked. "None," Admiral Davis said. "Our weapons hit only military targets. The quantum targeting system worked perfectly. We eliminated their leadership while sparing everyone else." Dr. Helen Ross was back on Titan, analyzing the data from her quantum targeting system. The technology had performed even better than she had hoped. Every shot had hit its intended target with perfect accuracy. No weapon in galactic history had ever been so precise. "We've changed everything," she told Carl Jung. "Before today, warfare was about destroying everything in your path. Now it's about hitting exactly what you want to hit and nothing else." Carl nodded. "The other alien races will want this technology. They'll try to steal it or buy it. Then we'll have to be very careful about who we share it with," Helen said. "This kind of precision could be used for good or evil." On the Earth Defense Force Medical Station, where the New Hope survivors were recovering, Pete Jackson watched the news reports about the strike. He had lost his wife Nancy and his twin boys in the Vorthak attack. Part of him felt satisfied that justice had been done. "They got the bastard who killed my family," he said to the doctor. "Zexthal is dead." Dr. Ben Clark nodded. "How do you feel about it?" Pete was quiet for a moment. "Empty. Getting revenge doesn't bring them back. But at least no other families. We'll have to go through what I did." In her new home with her aunt, little Emma Carter was playing with her toys when the news came on television. She didn't understand all the big words, but she knew the bad aliens who had hurt her mommy were not going to hurt anyone else. "Is it over?" she asked her Aunt Mary. "Yes, sweetheart," Mary said, hugging her tight. "The bad people can't hurt anyone." Anymore, Emma held her mother's data recorder close to her chest. The little device had helped bring justice for all the people who died on the New Hope. Her mommy would be proud that Emma had been brave and kept it safe. 3 days after the strike, a message arrived at Earth Defense Command. It was from the Vorthak civilian government asking for peace talks. The message was simple but important. "We wish to end this conflict," the message said. "We acknowledge that our attack on your civilian vessel was wrong. We seek to understand how such precision is possible and to ensure it never happens again." President Miller called together her advisors to discuss the Vorthak message. The meeting room was full of military officers, diplomats, and scientists. "They want to talk," she said. "The question is, Do we trust them? Director Kevin Walsh had been studying the Vorthak for years. They respect strength above all else. Our strike showed them that we're stronger than they imagined. They'll negotiate in good faith because they're afraid of what we might do next. Colonel Steve Parker agreed. We've shown them that we can reach out and touch anyone, anywhere, anytime we want. They know they can't win a war against us. President Miller made her decision. We'll talk to them, but the negotiations will take place in neutral space, and we'll dictate the terms. The peace talks were held on a space station in the Centauri system, halfway between Earth and Vortex space. President Miller led the human delegation. Crexan spoke for the Vorthak. We underestimated your capabilities, Crexan said during the first meeting. We thought you were weak because you value peace. We were wrong. Valuing peace doesn't make us weak, President Miller replied. It makes us careful about when and how we use our strength. The negotiations lasted for 2 weeks. In the end, they created something called the New Hope Accords, named after the ship that had started the conflict. The treaty established rules for both sides. The Vorthak agreed to never attack human civilian ships again. They agreed to pay compensation to the families of the New Hope victims. They agreed to share their space lanes with human merchant vessels. In return, Earth agreed not to use the quantum targeting system against Vorthak worlds unless they were attacked first. Earth also agreed to help the Vorthak rebuild their military command structure, but only with officers who understood the new rules. The signing ceremony was broadcast across both human and Vorthak space. Pete Jackson was there, representing the New Hope survivors. Emma Carter was there too, still holding her mother's data recorder. This treaty is written in the blood of innocence, President Miller said during her speech. Let it remind us all that civilian lives are sacred, no matter what species we belong to. Word of the New Hope Accord spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Other alien races took notice of what had happened. The humans had shown that they could strike with godlike precision, but they had also shown mercy to their enemies. Ambassador Zithkar of the Stellar Council came to Earth to meet with human leaders. The Stellar Council was a group of older alien civilizations that had been watching humanity with interest. Your response to the Vorthak attack has changed how the galaxy sees your species, Zithkar told President Miller. You have shown that humans can be both precise and merciful. This is a rare combination. Dr. Helen Ross was offered positions with a dozen different alien governments, all wanting to learn about quantum targeting technology. She turned them all down. This technology stays with Earth, she said. We created it to protect our people, not to help others start wars. 5 years later, Emma Carter was 13 years old and living happily with her aunt. She still had nightmares sometimes about the attack on the New Hope, but she was getting better. The data recorder that had saved her life was now in a museum. A reminder of the day humanity showed the galaxy what precision really meant. Peak. Jackson had started a new family and was working to help other survivors of violence. He said that the best way to honor his lost wife and children was to prevent other families from going through the same pain. The galaxy was a safer place now. Other alien species had seen what happened to the Vorthak and learned an important lesson. Humans might talk about peace and cooperation, but they were also capable of reaching across the stars with perfect accuracy. When their children were threatened, the New Hope Accords became a model for interstellar relations. Dozens of other treaties were based on its principles. The memory of 859 innocent people who died in space had helped create a more peaceful galaxy. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the quantum targeting system waited quietly, watching over humanity's children with the patience of a parent and the precision of a god.